You're listening to KSVR Mount Vernon, Cedar-Woolley, and LaConner, and KSVU, Hamilton, Concrete, and Marble Mount.
It's now time for Skagit Talks, featuring local news, interviews, and information from around the valley, created with the help of Skagit County community volunteers. Now, KSVR 91.7 presents Skagit Talks. Today is a conversation with Skagit Symphony's music director, Michael Wheatley, and guest artist and pianist, Sandra Shen. This weekend's concert celebrates Rachmaninoff's 150th birthday with his towering second piano concerto with Sandra Shen, and Mazursky's legendary pictures at an exhibition. In the Northwest News Report, flying high for conservation, Echo Flight soars above the Northwest. A fact laid bare. Ursine foragers are active ahead of winter. All this and more in today's edition. Now, the Skagit Symphony.
Good day and welcome to Skagit Talks. This is David Johnson. It's a pleasure to welcome two guests to the studio today. Michael Wheatley, who is the music director for Skagit Symphony, and also with us is Sandra Shen, who is going to be the pianist this coming Saturday for the program's Second Chances here on the Skagit Valley campus. Michael, welcome. Good to have you with us.
It's good to be back. It's been a while.
It's been a while. We happened to look at the calendar the other day. It was 4 years ago when I first introduced you or interviewed you. You were brand new here to the Skagit
That's
Valley.
right. I think that was the reason for the interview. I was the new guy in town.
You were the new kid.
Yep.
And Sandra, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. So, Michael, let's just talk about this coming week, this coming series. It's the 44th year for the symphony. We're opening. The theme is The Things We Do for Love. Just before we get into this particular show, why that theme and when did you pick it?
Well, I generally am programming with kind of a rolling 3-year plan. So I always have about 3 seasons in the hopper. This one started to come to mind about 2 years ago or so. And last season, as any concert goers will remember, we did an entire season of Music of the Americas. So it was a lot of music that the audience had not heard before. It was all music from North, Central, and South America. So lots of different styles than people were used to hearing in a classical concert. And the orchestra had played almost nothing that we did last year. Everything was new. And it took us in lots of new directions, and it stretched the orchestra in new directions. And they also, I think we really improved as an ensemble. You know, we had to be so much more flexible. This year I decided, okay, you know, the audience was so enthusiastic and they were so wonderful about these new things that we were showing them, and attendance was fantastic. So we decided, all right, let's go back to the standard rep this year and really dig into the romantic literature for which, you know, our art is more well known these days. And it's my favorite repertoire as well. The late 19th and early 20th century is really the stuff that speaks to my heart. And that's why we're doing, you know, Rachmaninoff and Tchaikovsky and Berlioz and Dvorak and all of these generally well-loved works that I feel like the orchestra hasn't really had a chance to do for the last 2 years. So it's a gift to the audience. It's a gift to the orchestra as well.
Are the musicians thrilled?
We are having so much fun. Yeah, it's amazing. It's much easier for an orchestra to play music they've either played before or they at least know all of the tunes, you know. And last year that wasn't the case for anything we did. Everything we were starting over and having to learn for the first time. And this year, I mean, every rehearsal, you can see everybody's smiling and laughing. I mean, who doesn't want to play Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto, you know, and the Mussorgsky, too. I mean, these are works that we've all known our whole lives. And anytime you get to play this stuff, it's the sound of a full orchestra playing this stuff live is just magic. And also the orchestra's grown to almost 80 members now, so we produce a really big string sound. And that's the other thing actually I was waiting for. I've been waiting for the right time to program Rachmaninoff, because if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right, you know, and we had to get the string section big enough to where we could do that, and we're there now.
Well, let's talk about the Rachmaninoff piece. So talk to me a little bit about it, and then Sandra, you talk about it.
Yeah, so Sandra and I actually met, I think it's 11 years ago now, in Southern Illinois University. I was doing a graduate degree there, and I was kind of in charge of the program while the professor was on sabbatical. And we were originally going to do the Liszt Piano Concerto, and Sandra wrote me a note and said, "Hey, I'm going to be, doing this concerto competition. I think it was the Rachmaninoff competition. And you asked, is there any chance we could do Rock Third? And it's so much harder than the list, and it's twice as long. But of course, I was like, yeah, we can do the Rock 3, no problem at all. I would say yes to anything you asked. But man, it's one of the hardest pieces I've ever conducted. And at the time, it was a lot. But what a triumph. And that's how we became friends.
So Sandra, you're here in town, obviously rehearsing with the orchestra and getting ready for the concerto. So why'd you pick this particular piece?
Oh, I don't get to pick.
Why did you recommend? Suggest.
Well,
Give me a verb.
Well, it came about because, our Rock 3 was such a moving experience, and we really got each other, with Rachmaninoff in particular. It's a composer that we both deeply love and feel connected to. And my mission ever since then is I want to do every Rachmaninoff piano work with Sandra now. So It's taken us this long to get to the second, but we're finally here.
But honestly, whatever maestro asked me to play, I would go and play it because it's so wonderful to play under him, and the symphony sounds fantastic. I was just sharing with Michael that there were sounds. I played this concerto several times, but there were sounds in an orchestra that I never heard before that brought out new meaning to the piece. So I get to share a little bit about the piece. So I studied with a woman, a lady, a piano prodigy. She studied with Rachmaninoff when she was 10. And she told me this story that when Rachmaninoff, after the first symphony, was such a big disaster after the premiere, that the family was so worried about him because he fell into depression. He couldn't compose anymore. So they thought of a distant relative who happens to love playing chess and was a hypnotist. So he would play chess night after night with Rachmaninoff, and in the middle of the chess game, he would say, "There's a melody coming. All you need to do, just write it down. All you need to do, just write it down." And then came the second piano concerto.
Wow, that'd be a great Hallmark movie.
Incredible, incredible.
Well, now, if she was working or studying with Rachmaninoff when she was 10, am I right? This is his 150th birthday?
That's right, this year.
This year, not today, but this year. It's just one of the reasons we celebrate.
150.
So she must.
She is 97 right now, still living, still sharp and bright.
And still playing.
Still playing.
Great.
She recorded an album during COVID time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
well,
incredible.
That's
So in this concerto, I think clearly we hear the journey, the emotional journey going from that dark depression out and into the third movement, burst into triumph. It is really such an emotional journey.
And it was much the same for Rachmaninoff. This was the piece that launched the rest of his compositional and performance career.
This was his comeback piece, huh?
Definitely.
Oh, great. Just want to remind our audience, we're talking today with Michael Wheatley. He's the music director of Skagit Symphony, and we're also fortunate to have with us Sandra Shen. She is going to be the pianist this coming Saturday night for the Second Chances concert. It takes place at 7:30 here at McIntyre Hall on the Skagit Valley campus. I'm David Johnson. It's a pleasure to be your host today. So why is it called Second Chances?
Well, so the idea of the things we do for love, I'm trying to draw parallels and create metaphors between, romantic relationships and music. And what inspires any art and any artist more than love? Historically, that's the case. So every single theme this season has some connection with that, with romanticism and love. And so the first is, second chances, because who doesn't need a second chance in relationships every now and then? And then, each concert that follows is kind of the same idea, once upon a time, and longing for home, and then finally obsessions for the last concert. Second chances in this case, well, every piece on the concert fits into that theme in a different way. The concert opens with a very brief tone poem by a composer named Mary Howe. This is a work I found kind of by accident. Right before coming to Skagit Valley, I was finishing my doctorate at the Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York. one of the wonderful things about being there is it is the largest music library in the United States. It's massive, and just stacks after stacks after stacks of music. And one day, I mean, I love to hang out there and just discover things. And one day, I was looking for something completely different, and I happened to come across this tiny little score by Mary Howe. And I'm like, never heard of this before. And I just pulled it off the shelf, and it was a pair of like mini tone poems, one called Sand and one called Stars. And so I was able to find a recording of it on YouTube. It's a terrible recording, just because it was done, a million years ago in poor quality, and it even sounds like it was rehearsed in a hurry because the orchestra's it's a little bit of it's not a mess, but it needs
Not quite up to Skagit Symphony standards.
Yeah, that's it. So it just needs a little touch, a little work. Anyway, so I just thought people have to hear this piece. I mean, it's a composer that needs another chance, and that was kind of the idea behind putting that on there. And I want more people to hear of this wonderful composer. So Mary Howe is an American composer, and if you come to the concert, our musicologist has put together some wonderful notes that you can read about her before the concert, but amazing woman. So the concert opens up with that glorious work. And then, of course, as Sandra just told this story about Rachmaninoff's second piano concerto, not only is it a second concerto, but it was a second chance at him to establish himself as a composer, and a very successful one.
And for us,
for us, it's a third chance, really, because this is Sandra's third visit. Sandra's become something of a local celebrity, I think. You just played with the Linden Music Festival, and I think this is your second performance with them. And it's her third time playing with Skagit Symphony. We brought Sandra into town during COVID times, and we did, kind of a virtual performance of Beethoven's Fourth Piano Concerto. And then we brought her out again, I think a year later, to do Saint-Saëns Third, and the concert got canceled that day. And Sandra, blessedly, always has like a whole recital in her back pocket. She ended up just coming, okay, we'll do my recital instead. And she did a full piano recital that night for our audience instead. It was amazing. So this is finally, a chance, third chance in this case, for Sandra to be on the stage and for everyone in our community to hear this amazing artist.
That was the longest rehearsal for me with the orchestra to get performance.
Really?
Right,
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah, no kidding.
To get a performance.
And then with Mussorgsky, of course, it's a second chance in that case because Mussorgsky, as a composer, he wrote this as a piano work in 1886. A friend of his, dear friend of his, an architect and painter named Victor Hartmann, had died. And in St. Petersburg, they put together this big exhibit of his work, and he went to see it. And this promenade that begins the work, dun, dun, bum, ba, dun, dum, that's him walking through the gallery. And then each movement is a depiction of different works of art by this painter, Victor Hartmann. Well, about 12 years later, a student of Rimsky-Korsakov's named Tushmalov orchestrated the piece, but he left several movements out. And it wasn't until almost 50 years after the work was composed, in 1874, the piano work, and many years after Mussorgsky's death at 42, that Ravel finally orchestrated this version. So this is a second chance at life for the piece, in a way. But it was 1922 when Ravel orchestrated this version of it, and it's just a towering achievement. I mean, Ravel was arguably the greatest orchestrator of the 20th century. And it's just a magical work.
And that's the one that closes the show. Excellent. I love that piece. I've always loved the orchestral piece, but I also have to admit, Emerson, Lake and Palmer do a great version too. A three-piece band does a great version of Pictures at an Exhibition.
Well, add it to the list of. There's been many orchestrations of this work. Everyone knows Ravel's, but there's like half a dozen out there. So, and many good ones. But we decided to do this one because the audience knows it best. And as an orchestra that only performs 6 to 8 times a year, it's not every day that we get to perform this piece either. And I thought, the orchestra deserves a chance to do the best version. And Ravel's is the best version.
And it is. I'm looking forward to it. My wife and I just got our season tickets, so we'll be there on Saturday night. This is David Johnson. It's been a pleasure talking with Sandra Shen. She's going to be the pianist this Saturday night, October 21st, for Second Chances from the Skagit Symphony. We've been also talking with Michael Wheatley. He is the music director for the symphony. If you want to know some more information, check out their website. It's a pretty easy one, SkagitSymphony.com. Again, that's SkagitSymphony.com. All kinds of information. Tickets still available. Hey, this is David Johnson saying thanks for listening, and take care of yourself. Take care of others.